Hey everyone, I hope you, your family, your friends are happy, healthy, and safe during these crazy times. And I just want to say thank you so much for listening and subscribing to the podcast. If you really like it, go ahead and share it with other people. And if you fucking hate it, share it with more people so that you guys can just tear me apart.
It's about growing as a person. Your best is completely unique to you.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining me. Jeff Gruby here on the Fuck Perfect podcast. I believe it's number like 13. I'm here. So grateful to have Troy Woolfolk here. He was a quarterback on Michigan Wolverines.
Go
Had a
blue.
yeah, had a basically quick cup of coffee career on the Cowboys. Had a career-ending injury, but now he's on just a different path and doing amazing things. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, Troy.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
I don't get to talk to nobody like this.
That's cool. So maybe you want to tell people where kind of like your story, like cherry picked version, how you got maybe from like the 5-year-old version of you to now, or just a certain story. But what's your story that you want to share with people today?
So I would say I started out as your typical supreme type of high school athlete. I was a dual sport. I was in track and football. And when it came to college, I didn't know if I wanted to pursue my track career or my football career because I was getting about like the same amount of scholarships. So I decided to kind of go the route that my father did. My father was also in the NFL for about 8 to 9 years. He played with the Giants, the Oilers. That's what kind of brought us to Texas in a sense. So I followed in the footsteps, going to Michigan, trying to pursue that career. Coming out of college, I got picked up by the Cowboys. Things were going to be great, and then I break my leg. Not only break my leg, I tear all my tendons and dislocate it to where it's just like I'm basically done with sports. After that, I kind of went back from the to the ground up and working my way into digital marketing and was able to work my way up to working at IBM where it appeased my pocket, but it didn't appease my soul. I still missed the competitive side of things. I didn't necessarily miss football, but I missed competing. I missed being in shape and being able to do things that the normal person cannot do. So that's what kind of drove me back into the world of athleticism. And luckily, I live in Austin, to where it's one of the fittest cities in the nation, and they had something called Austin Fittest. It's a competition where there's a series of different events to basically overall crown someone to be the fittest person in Austin. And when I first did it, I came in second. I was like, okay, I'm gonna come back next year. I'm gonna win it. Next year, came in second. I was like, okay, I'm tired of coming in second. I'd rather come in third because when you're second, you're the first loser. So this third year, I was like, okay, I'm gonna focus and get the most out of my body by not just working hard, but also focusing on a rehab session, going to places like Cryo Body Works, getting massages, doing all different type of workouts that I normally didn't do to try to get me to that next level to be the fittest person in Austin. And long story short, it worked. I loved it. I went to Austin Fittest this year. I beat everybody, and I'm just excited. So I kind of took that notoriety and that excitement and kind of compiled that onto an existing online trainer. That's what I do. I have a website that's called www.wolf.fit. It can be kind of confusing. It's no.com.fit to where I provide online training. And now I'm trying to get into the functional training side of things.
Awesome. Congrats on winning Austin's fittest. It's definitely not an easy thing to do with all the fit people in Austin as well.
Yeah, thank you. That's why it took me 3 years to do it.
Yeah, I know. I was. It's interesting hearing your story a bit because I relate when in high school I was in just basically track and cross country and I was just running like all the time. And For me, I never felt like I was super competitive. I wasn't aware of it, even though I was right. So when I
Mhm,
ran, I didn't sprint like the whole time, but I did 100% my best. The whole like I didn't know anything else. I didn't know
mhm,
not to give everything you got. So when I run hard, and I know when I was going to practice one time, spiking to practice, I was trying to like get amped up for it, and I got hit by a car, and so I had 4 stress fractures, 2 in each of my shins. Um, I still, it's the first time I told this story on the podcast. I still got on the car drove away. I got on my bike. I just went all the way back to practice. I was late. My coach was pissed. I looked down and I had like blood going down my legs and stuff.
Oh,
So,
dang.
but after seeing the doctors, they're like, "Yeah, you're not running competitively anymore. Like it's too much for for a long time." And so
Mhm.
I did aqua jogger, which, if anyone knows, it's probably the worst thing in the world, where you have it's like a life vest and you're running in the swimming pool. And so
Oh.
yeah, it's so you feel like you feel so like a baby learning how to swim. You're just like in this thing treading. Yeah, yeah. And I did that the whole season. And the last race of the season, I wasn't supposed to compete, but I was like, Coach, like, just put me in. That's my last year here. Let me run.
Mhm.
I finished fourth in the 800, and I was super
What?
happy because I didn't do anything. That was the beginning of my season, by the way. The first beginning, like it was preseason, I got hit by the car. So
Dang.
anytime I would run, I after that, like in college or doing tough mudder, which is dumb for myself. Anytime I would run, I don't know how to turn that off, the competitive side.
Mhm.
And so I had to look for other areas to that I could still be competitive, still be athletic, right? Just
Exactly.
uh not running. I can actually do impact if it's cushioned, but I just can't do some even in Austin, as you know, uh there's very little trail running. It's like
Yes.
concrete everywhere. So I'm like,
Mhm.
well,
Everywhere.
I'm, I'm not running on that. But
Yeah.
that's interesting kind of similarity, and I'm really excited for the thing that you're launching, the app for helping people get fit, because there's so many ways. And what I like about from the videos I've seen you on Instagram, I love your Instagram videos, and the things I've seen, the videos on YouTube, which you started your channel, the Troy Woolfolk channel, which I
Mhm.
recommend people subscribe to. You have a lot of incredible variety. At least there's like 4 or 5 videos right now, right? Where there's
Yep.
really
Mhm.
cool, just kind of like functional training. And the thing that even I do, because I don't really like to get into the fitness side for helping people. I tell it's
Mhm.
important, but I just don't want to get into it as much as you do for training them.
Mhm.
But when I do talk to people, I'm like, you have to make sure you're training single sides, not just double all the time, because that's how you get injuries. Where like you're just always training 2 legs at a time, 2 arms at a time, but you don't know how to land. You don't know how to
Exactly.
decelerate. And
Mhm.
then you talk about yoga on there too, which everyone. So I do teach these fitness classes in the morning now, and they're like, I did yoga I think 2 or 3 times, and I'm a yoga guy now, right? They call me a yoga guy. I'm like, guys, yoga is part of it, right?
Yes.
And you even talk
Mhm.
about the benefits of yoga, which is awesome. You have a lot of in depth things that even I forget about when I was watching some of your videos. So check out that. Um, my question to you is: aside from health and fitness for now, in what areas did you used to focus on, like say perfection, and you're like, I'm going to focus on progress, and it led to a better place for you?
So you said so outside of health and
Out,
fitness?
yeah. Even though people like
Okay.
us, it's like 90% of our life.
Yeah. I would say because so I kind of split myself into two people. I would say the T Wolf persona is the health and fitness guy, but then Troy is more like the corporate guy, the guy who works at IBM,
Hmm.
the behind the scenes SEO, search engine optimization guy, and I would say outside of health and fitness, I just see myself tapping into that side, and I would say really that side has the structure and the organization has kind of the effects of that has trickled its way into causing success in every facet of my life. Going back to what we were talking before the show is 2020 has been a very amazing year so far, and it's not necessarily because I'm putting in more work. It's I'm getting more strategic with my time that
Hmm.
allows for more work to be done and not just be done, be more efficiently. And that's one thing that I think people underestimate is that being organized, being structured will allow for much more time in your day because you will have everything planned out and you can see what can actually be done versus just getting stressed when you have 6 things to do. When you say 6 things to do, it sounds intimidating, but when you say, "Oh, I can do this here, do this here, do this here, do this here," and then now you actually have more time for that. And that's something that, like I say, works for the corporate world when you have certain tasks, but it also works in the world of trying to get I don't mean to come back to diet and fitness, but it's just always on my brain.
Yeah,
But
I know
when
what
you
you mean.
are trying, like with some of my clients, like that's the first thing they say is like, I don't have time for this. I can't do it.
Mhm.
But when you trying to get something, that's another thing is people sometimes aren't willing to sacrifice things that they want for things that they need. Prime example: people want to take naps in a day. People want to sleep in. Well, by you sleeping in, you're taking away a potential something that you can do to drive money to come in. When you say I need money, but when you say, "Oh, I can't wake up to do this to start work on this project. I can't wake up to do this because that's my nap time." That you're putting your wants over your needs. So when you sacrifice some of your sleep time or your wants time period in a day, whatever that may be, video games, sleeping, watching TV, going hanging out with friends for a couple of drinks, you're taking away a need that you have desired that is a necessity for you. And I
Ab
would say that's
Yeah, go ahead.
I was saying I was that would probably be the biggest teaching point that can go and not just limited to fitness, that's limited to the overall success of one's life.
Yeah, and I love how you said you take these. You're organized, and that it's almost like you were saying that you're taking. Okay, you have all these tasks you gotta do, but you can break them up in these little bits and like make progress here, and eventually, if you keep focusing on progress, you can get to where you want to be. But if you focus on like I have to do it all perfectly, like right now, it's just not gonna fly. 'Cause especially
Yep,
like for people, for example, like if you first start, doing SEO stuff in the beginning versus where you are now, it's like in the beginning, there's no way you could get to where you are now.
exactly.
It's just you have to
Hmm.
start doing something. So if people can't, they say I don't have time to do a 45 minute, 60-minute workout. You say, okay, do you have time for a 5 minute one, right? Because most of the time, I mean, I personally have never done a workout if that's been like, okay, I'm gonna start for 5 minutes and then not wanting to, like I want to stop at five. Like, no, I'm just gonna keep going because
Yeah.
you feel really good, right?
Uh-huh.
And so many people often they, interestingly enough, they see it's I think work and work out. People don't want to go to work. People don't want to work out. Maybe it's the word itself,
Hmm.
but they don't want to put an effort. Everyone has like these little escapisms, like where they, hey, I'm gonna go put my responsibilities aside. I'm gonna like binge the fuck out of this Netflix show, or I'm gonna
Yep.
play some video games. I'm gonna go sleep in some more. I'm gonna go hang out with friends. They keep kind of avoiding things, and the
Hmm.
thing is like uh, people feel like if they avoid something, they're putting it on pause. And I tell
Hmm.
people it's like an escalator. If you stop climbing, you don't stay in the middle.
I like that.
Whoo, you're going back down, buddy. You're going
Yep.
down. You start over
Hmm.
from everything. And the thing is that it's so much harder to start over than it is just to keep going, right? I actually have
That is
something called
so true.
I tell my clients a WTF plan: when things fail, because
Ah.
they're gonna. If you like, when I got injured, right? Maybe when you got injured, like I didn't focus on, well, I guess I'm not doing this anymore. I said, well, what can I do? I can't do this. I
Hmm.
can't do what I used to do. But what can I do now? What can I do to keep moving forward, right? And I used to value perfection. I used to think, even this podcast, I'm like, I don't have a good enough camera yet. I don't have a good enough background. I have like my kid's shit in the back, you know. uh, it's like, no, I'm just gonna start. I'm just gonna start making progress. And maybe in other areas, a good question: do you feel like you have these expectations in your head to be a perfect father, and have you noticed that, and have you said, okay, I'm getting better at being the dad I want to be, as opposed to, okay, I'm not matching up to who I want to be? How about your
That's
being a
a
dad?
that's a great question. Now you're getting to my core right now. So give you some backstory. I The first baby I ever held was mine. So that says a lot right there. So of course I was terrified, petrified of trying to fulfill a role that I've never really even thought myself to be one so soon. Like in my situation, I would like to say it was a planned baby, but it wasn't. Like it happened. Okay, what do we do from here? And I think by having such a great father myself, it made me even more nervous because I have this idea of what a father is. Because my dad, he was in my life every step of the day. Like I talk to him on an almost daily basis, and he's always asking like, "How can I help? How can I help?" He's such a great father. So it's like, can I? The expectation, the bar has been set so high, and even like with my wife. Like she's a great mother, and it seems like it's just like she knew exactly what to do when a baby comes out, or when we come home with the baby, give it milk, breastfeed, and I'm just like, how do you know? Like just seems so innate for her to do. So, like I said, I was extremely terrified to do it, but I know that I had to at least give it my best shot. Like I owed it to my daughter, and that's all I can do. So it's like there's no sense in getting worked up about something. If you can only do so much and like you're doing 100%, then that's all you can do. So like I wasn't the best person knowing how to shake the baby to get him to go to sleep, knowing all that stuff. But what I am good at is going back to the Troy side of me, and the corporate side is I learn from my mistakes.
Hmm.
Making new mistakes as a father allows me to increase my ability to be a father in a sense. Like if I one thing that I used to always do, and I kind of still do it sometimes, so I guess I didn't learn for 100%, which when I'm putting a diaper on, I got to make sure the flaps are out. So when my daughter dookies, it doesn't seep out. So like that's something that, and she was a explosive doo doo baby, TMI, sorry, but
That's
it used to
fine.
always leak when I put the freaking diaper on because I never make sure the flaps are out. So it's like I learned from that mistake to where I don't do that again. So
Hmm.
like that's just one example, but in anything, and like if you just continue to make new mistakes, you will get better at whatever it is that you're trying to do.
Hmm.
So I like to believe I'm a much better father than mine. I would like to bring my wife in here to see if she thinks so, but I do feel confident that I'm much better father than when I first started out. Trial and
Yeah.
error. You gotta have
No, and
errors.
that's awesome. I think a lot of so my experience of being a dad is that when we we're reading all the books and all the things that you can possibly do, and then I just get overwhelmed. I get overwhelmed with all the information of like the pre-parenting stuff, and we were gonna go to the birthing class and learn how to do that, but then my daughter came early, so like we didn't go to that. We're like
Oh,
just thrown into it, right? It's actually Cinco de Mayo. We had like a Cinco de Mayo
ooh.
party going on. uh we I was getting my workout in before the party happened, and my wife comes in. She goes, "Hey, it's okay. I think my water broke, and go ahead and finish your workout, and then we'll." I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. Let's go." So so
That's crazy.
we went to the hospital, and I remember just not enough guys or dads talk about this. I don't think it's like there's always that maternal connection that moms have because we're growing the baby inside them. And I
Hmm.
felt like after I hold my daughter, I'm like, this is awesome. I don't I don't feel this thing yet.
Yes.
Did I f this up? Like, am I something wrong with me? I didn't know what's going on, and I was really nervous. But the diapers, I but nervous about everything, like holding them, laying them. I could get used to holding. I was okay. And then 3 months later, we move and we come to Austin. And I was like kind of taking over the stay at home dad stuff, and I was like just terrified, terrified. I didn't know what's going on, and like I think, okay, there's all these books that are written for like this generic baby, right? There's generic
Yeah.
baby, but then what you learn as a dad or a parent is what works for your baby, right?
Yep.
So you have all these ideas, but what works for your kid is going to be different than the ideas. It might not even be in there, right?
Yep.
And
Hmm.
I've always been committed to getting better. Uh, I'm just like, hey, if I'm even if I'm 100%, I'm like, well, how can I improve that? How can I do that? What's next? Because if I don't have
Hmm.
something next to go to, I always want to be growing. So I'm always trying to be like, say, the better dad or the better, kind of coach or a better whatever the next thing is. I want to be better because I want to grow. So I think just kind of like looking at what works for your kid, realizing, being able to be self-aware, like, oh, that's a mistake. I'm going to get better. I don't think a lot of parents out there, especially dads, have that. They
Hmm.
they just see this is what I'm going to give, and it's like stagnant. This is not getting better, right? So I think it's cool that people like you and me and other dads that are like that out there, and parents want to be a better parent. How can I help my kid? a lot of times there's like this hands-off parenting that happens where back, 20 years ago, go outside, go play meant you're going outside, right?
Yeah.
Go play now is different. Go play now means usually technology, right?
Yep. Go get the
So
iPad.
yeah, go get that. Go distract yourself. So even though the parenting style was the same of go distract yourself, just what's being in front of them now is different, and it's interesting because we have to be better parents and more aware of what's happening because we're losing our time, right? Like in terms of like we have less free time, but we have
Yep.
these awesome responsibilities. I think parenting is one of the most rewarding and yet more challenging things that I've ever done ever. That'll push you to consistency. Like you want to get up every day.
Yeah.
Like,
Huh?
well, I got have a baby, you'll get up. You'll
You
get up.
have kind of no choice when you have a kid, and it's funny that you had an interesting story on delivery because I also did too. My daughter came about 4 weeks early, and just so happened I was shooting a reality TV show in Atlanta
Uh-huh.
that I kind of planned it to be done like right around the time she was supposed to come. So I had the executive, like one of the producers, give their personal cell phone to my wife just to message me in case like something would have happened, but it wasn't supposed to happen. So and it was like a reality TV show with Ti, you know the rapper Ti.
No.
So he's a rapper out of based out of Atlanta, but he's like international. He's like big thing. And so he was on BET, and it was like a type of show where it's like where Real World meets what's Donald Trump's show that he had the
Apprentice?
other Apprentice. Yeah, Real World meets Apprentice. Like threw us in a huge mansion, and we were basically competing for a job to work under Ti, the rapper, and so I made it to like the past like the first 4 rounds, and then it was like 2 more rounds to go before like I get the job, and then Ti like calls me into the room, and then he was like, "Your wife just went into labor and is about to have a baby." I was just like I had a so backstory on me. I don't cry. I'm your manly man. I don't get sensitive. Nothing wrong with that. People who do. It's just not me. And it just hit me because I just wasn't ready. And I started thinking about my daughter coming into this world, me not being there, my wife having to give birth without
Yeah.
without
Yeah.
her husband, me being there, and it's just a flood of emotion came, and I just started like tearing up, and then, of course the camera's there, so they're gonna zoom in on it, and it just pissed me off. I was like, "This is not me. I promise, it's not me." But then immediately I went straight to the airport, landed here in Austin, had to get an Uber, and by the time I got to the hotel, she was getting the epidural and she had the baby, and like I made it. It was like within 30 minutes of me getting there, she had
Whew.
the baby. It was
Wow.
crazy.
Nice. That's amazing. I know. Oh, geez. I know. I wasn't really someone that got emotional or teared up until having kids, and now
Mhm.
if I see something regarding kids, I'm just like my eyes get a little watery.
It changes you because
I'm like,
you,
damn it, I can't
yeah,
watch certain movies if there's something happening to kids. I'm like, oh,
yep.
I gotta turn that off. I'm done.
Because now you personalize it, and
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
just a kid. It's you think about if it happened
Mhm,
to your kid.
mhm.
So like it definitely changes you.
Absolutely. The same that happened. Your story about getting into labor to your wife's thing on time happened to me with my our second kid, and I missed it.
Oh,
I was in traffic. I
oh,
was in
okay.
traffic trying to get there. I was in traffic trying to get there, and it's just Austin traffic on Palmer. It's just
Oh,
like it's
oh
a
no,
nightmare. And I get there. I'm like, I made it. I'm like, nope. There's the baby. I was like, oh my god. But I mean, fortunately, I had the memories of the first kid. But
hmm
I still think about like, oh man, I can't believe I missed. Can't believe I missed uh, Joey. But anyways, second question: in what areas this would probably be super amazing and easy to talk about? In what areas did you focus on perfection in health and fitness? And when you switch from like I got to be perfect every time versus like progress, did it get better?
I would say the so once I started to get into like the fitness realm, I experimented on myself a lot, and it kind of helped me come down to like the core principles that allow someone to excel in health and fitness. I would say it's really about 2 to 3 different principles. Starting off, consistency. Like if you consistently do anything, you will get better at it. It's really that simple. You're gonna learn. You can not know anything about fitness, and you go into the gym and you're just doing some crazy stuff. You're eventually gonna be like, okay, that doesn't work. I don't feel that, and, you're gonna learn. So consistency is extremely important. The second thing I would say is education. You have to know how to lift, how to, for an example, I used to bench all the time. I used to always have a flat chest. It made no sense. I bench, nothing happens with my chest. And it's because the way my the hand placement and my shoulder width to where I'm engaging more my shoulders and my triceps versus actually targeting my chest. So I wasn't educated on proper form on how to execute a movement. So therefore, yeah, I consistently go to the gym. I was always in there. I just couldn't get the results because I wasn't informed. And the last part to the three pillars, I would say, is effort. So if you're going to the gym consistently and you are hitting proper form or technique, whatever it may be, if you're not pushing yourself to get better, you will remain stagnant. If you're going there hitting 175 for 5 reps all the time, you're going to have muscle plateau and you're not going to get the results that you want anymore. Although you are consistently going, although you are hitting the accurate form, you have to have the effort, the proper intensity to match the other two to have the full spectrum of starting to create results. Now that's the fitness side of things. The health side of things is going back to education and consistency. Um, for an example, when I was trying to bulk, I didn't necessarily want to do a fat bulk. I wanted to do more of like a leaner bulk and
Oh, you
protein
mean
powder.
that excuse where people go, "Oh yeah, I'm building all this, putting on all this weight so I can turn into muscle later." I'm like, "Nope,
Yep, it's like
that's not how that
no, you're getting
works. That's
fat.
not how that works. You're just getting fat."
You're hibernating. That's what that is. But a lot of issues is like people say protein, protein, protein. Well, your body can only absorb around 30 to about 36, 37 grams of protein. A lot of these protein powders, they're giving you 45 grams of protein
Yeah,
in one in two scoops, and that's your serving size. Well, what happens is that excess protein turns into glucose. If it's not actually used in the workout, then it turns into fat. So I'm over here trying to work out. I'm consistently working out, and I'm thinking that I'm providing my body with the nourishment it needs to help me grow my muscles. Whereas actually I wasn't properly educated, and I was getting fat. I was getting a little muffin top on the side, and my cheeks was getting fat, and that's where it's like it's just as important to educate yourself on the proper form and technique in the gym as it is on proper nutritional consumption to get the overall side of things.
absolutely. And I think, you know, I think everyone that talks about like health and fitness, we're going to talk about consistency and the importance of that. And I love how you touched on this. The importance of consistency is so you can experiment and know what works and what doesn't for yourself. And when it comes to form, that's pretty much station like that's stagnant. Like you learn the right form. Maybe if it's for your body, once you learn that part, but then when you learn like specifically say nutrition, right? If people aren't consistent in their diet, they're not going to know what works and what doesn't for them. And for me, kind of being in health and fitness for a while, I got real tired of cookie cutter approaches. Like most of these
Yep.
fad diets are cookie cutter approaches. Like, hey, do they work for a majority of people? Yeah. Will they work for long term? Probably, but people aren't consistent enough. And then
Hmm.
there's a group of people that it won't work for, and there's another group of people who do it and then stop and do it and stop and do it, right? And you wonder,
Yep.
like, you hit the gym every day, your form is great, your intensity is high, but every weekend and if you're trying to lose weight, you're in a caloric surplus.
Hmm.
The weekends can make you plateau for just ever, right?
Hmm.
If you're not consistent, right? Uh, and it's crazy how consistency is going to be the best thing for you to figure out what's working and what's not. And then you're like, okay, I'm gonna change something that, and then okay, now this is working better, and you're able to build. Especially like it's a great point to talk about plant based nutrition, uh, and it's like the idea is like when I before becoming plant based 2.5 years ago, the the staple meal was like, chicken and broccoli or fish and some, salmon asparagus, like just constantly.
Yep.
I actually didn't really enjoy healthy food. I didn't. I'm like, there's the clean eating, boring ass food,
Yep.
and then there's the oh my god, the hamburgers, the fries, the pizzas. Like, oh yeah, that's great, right? The thing that's interesting about plant based eating is since you're eating differently, I feel like I'm able to enjoy a lot more meals. Uh, Whereas you're constantly seeking these different ingredients or these different flavors, and you're kind of like experimenting all these different. I was such a picky eater. I don't know how I'm alive as a kid. I never really drank water, and I survived on peanut butter and jelly or peanut butter banana most of my life.
PB&J's is all you
Uh,
need in
I
life.
still love it. I still love it, and thank God I can still have it. But but like now that I'm having all these different vegetables, I'm like, wow, these flavors and these flavors and these herbs and spices, and like I'm really actually having more fun with eating healthy meals because of the variety of vegetables and herbs and spices, as opposed to like these bland ass like chicken breast, sweet potato, or whatever that was. Um, and it's been really interesting for me to find those flavors. I'm like, oh, I'm getting all these vitamins from the food. That's cool. And then you start to feel better, perform better, and that's kind of what we want to talk about next. Is like you've also transitioned into plant based eating. Now, do you consider yourself vegan or plant based? I actually shy away from vegan because I feel like people have like these like connotations from it.
Yep.
What are your
And
thoughts?
and I'm glad you brought that up because that is definitely something that needs to be talked about. And I also created an explanation of the difference between the two, being plant based and vegan. And you have to be very careful in the vegan community saying that you're a plant based or saying that you're a vegan when you're actually plant based.
Hmm.
So let's first tackle that and understand the difference. Plant based is referring to the diet. So plant based means that you're not eating any animal byproduct. Veganism is the diet is assumed, but it doesn't just stop there. It's also talking about the ethics, like you're not going to be wearing leather. You're not going to be wearing alligator boots, and you it's more of like
Hmm.
an activist movement in a sense.
Right.
So I made that mistake on one of my posts and like, oh, I'm now that I'm not eating animals, I'm vegan. They're like, well, you're halfway there, but you're not technically vegan. So just wanted to talk through that. But
You know what's funny? I, I had an experiment where you could do a post on like Facebook or something like that. You could say if you said the um if you said I love eating sweet potatoes because of these benefits, right? No one's really gonna care. No one's gonna. But if you say the best vegetable to eat is spinach, people will be so quick to tell you that you're wrong. Like they
yeah,
don't want to tell you anything else. But if you make a claim about like, hey, I'm vegan or hey, I'm best bet, they're like, oh, this is why you're wrong. I mean, they won't engage
yep,
if you're they don't
yeah, that's
have that.
true. I mean, that's definitely true. It also goes to just like ratings or comments like on a Google page or something.
Sure.
People are way less inclined to talk about a great experience. But
Hmm.
if you go to a restaurant and you get some food that's super cold, or you get a rat in your or a bug in your food, you're gonna
Yeah,
be
yeah, yeah,
engaged. You're
yeah.
gonna I hate this blah blah blah. But you don't like think to do that for the restaurants where you actually love the food. Like, oh, this is good, but you're not gonna go and do that. So we are all naturally haters at our core.
Yeah.
We're more inclined to do that. But to bring the conversation back to vegan and plant based, um, I I I like many other people first kind of got interested in the whole veganism from looking at the show on Netflix called Game Changers,
Yeah.
and and while looking at it, I did have the lens of a skeptic. I like to take that lens going into any situation because it allows you to try to truly see things for what they are. The show was put on by people who did have an agenda, which was to try to get people to see the highlights of vegan, just like how rest of media has been put on from people with an agenda of trying to get them to push meat products, meat products. So
Hmm.
I try to understand both sides. And even with the lens of skepticism, there's certain things that you can't deny. Certain facts are within like science. Um, when they talked about how it can actually help you out, specifically speaking to a performance standpoint. So it's like now it's not really a slanted view. It's a fact is a fact. You can't augment a fact in a certain instance. So
Right.
um, with that being said, it kind of um, I'm not someone who's necessarily gonna knock something until I try it. So if you present enough information for me to actually try it out, then I'll do it, even though I don't fully believe in it. So I just
Mhm.
want to reiterate that. Like when I first became plant based, I should say, I didn't fully think it was just like the greatest thing to do. And I always hear people see, say things like, "Oh, I feel so much more energy from it," or I hear this, but it's like it was always vague things. It was like I want to know exactly how I can get that feeling. So
Right.
so now I'm almost I'm approaching my 5 months. Actually, no, I just finished my 4 month mark. So I've been a vegan for 4 months, and um, I do kind of feel some of these advantages and benefits that people were talking about. Mostly looking into the energy side of things. I try to understand like how that can be. Like I always want to know how and why things work. And it actually is plain and simple. When you consume meat, it's much harder for your digestive system to break down, so it has to
Mhm.
exert more energy.
Mhm.
So when you use more energy to do something, of course you will have less energy. Versus plants, they're easier to digest, so it doesn't have to exert as much energy. So your body is not exerting as much energy in the digestion process. Therefore, it has an abundance left behind. So where you normally would have this amount of energy throughout the day and it gets exerted from your meat consumption, when you get that back, now you have a surplus energy, and that's what everybody is feeling. So there's definitely some benefits that I'm continuing to see from being on this vegan diet.
Absolutely, and that's awesome. I think it's a really good explanation too about the energy. And I noticed like because I took a long time to get there, I still had like I think eggs and fish for a while, so I was like mostly plant based. Um,
Hmm.
and eventually I'm like I think I got this, and then it's like training wheels. I'm like I'm gonna take the wheels off and see if I keep and I keep going. And the thing that
Hmm.
I noticed, when, especially for me, when obviously I was vegan or plant based before the Game Changers came out, but I was interested in watching it too is I noticed when I forgot the guy's name, but he was like doing these battle ropes for like what 10 or 12 minutes, right? His endurance
Oh
is really
yeah.
high. So I noticed that like I would start doing workouts and I'd finish my normal workout. I'm like, I kind of want to do it again or do something like do more. And usually
Hmm.
I'm just like I'm dead. So like I had so much just energy, endurance. I could just keep going and going. And since you're also the recovery portion, since your body's not like having to get rid of like toxins or things that it's hard to digest or can't really use. And my recovery was the flip side, which like you were talking about earlier, is like the yin and yang of fitness is recovery, right? And
Yes.
I didn't even really start looking into recovery till like a year ago. Like I even have like this Whoop bracelet here, right? Like
Oh, nice.
where it tracks recovery, and it's it's been amazing. So like I'm obsessed with recovery. It's like your sleep. It's your an HRV. Do you know what? Have you heard of HRV? So
Mm-mm.
it's heart rate variability. Um, it's like the variation between your heartbeat when it's at its most stressed during your exercise or most rested when you're sleeping. And they're able to take
Oh,
these two things. And what they know HRV measures, they know it measures your sleep. They know it measures your stress. They know it measures your food quality. It measures your emotions. It measures um, your activity, your exercise. Right?
that's cool.
They don't know how much of what is what. They can give
Gotcha.
you a number of HRV, and it's all those things. So you just kind of go through a checklist and you try to make all those things the best you can. Right?
Hmm.
So when people drink alcohol and they wear like this whoop, they can see their HRV rating goes they tanks and goes really bad, right? Because your body's
Interesting.
constantly processing, trying to get rid of alcohol,
Hmm.
and you're not sleeping as long because your body's not at rest. It
Hmm.
takes more energy to get rid of the alcohol, so you feel like
Exactly.
crap, and you're right. So I even played with my food. I was like, okay, if I ate certain food, would it? And yeah, it does. If I eat, if I, even
Really?
if I eat plant-based ice cream, like cashew milk ice cream, tanks.
Yep.
I was like, no, no, yeah.
and,
So,
and,
go ahead.
and it's funny too is that when I first got on the plant-based diet, you think you can eat anything. Like as long as it's plant based, I'm gonna be good. I'm gonna just get super shredded and blah blah. Blah. But here's the thing: there's something called vegan junk food that
Yeah,
I
Oreos.
didn't. Yes, like I would go somewhere and what I call is fake health eating, and I'll just get some fries because like places where I can't eat anything else on the menu, I'll just get some fries. And then when I leave there, I was like, oh yeah, I didn't eat any meat, so I'm feeling good. But I just ate a whole bucket of fries for dinner. Like, what the heck was that? So calories are still a thing, regardless if
Right. Yep.
you're a vegan or not, and you have to all continue to look at your macros to avoid overconsumption of high calorie foods that um, can actually get you fat. Like healthy foods can be fat. That's
Yeah, it's
definitely
interesting, especially in Game Changers. Even though I love peanut butter, their example was that 100 grams of peanut butter had the same amount of had actually a little bit more protein than 100 grams of beef. Right?
oh yes, it is.
100 grams of
Yeah.
peanut butter. That's a lot of calories.
Yes.
I That's a lot. I mean, 2 tablespoons is, off the top of my head, is like 32 grams, which is around 280 calories. So multiply that by three. So you're at like 700 calories for 100 grams for peanut butter. That's a
And
lot.
and and that's where I say you have to have a lens of skepticism when you're
Hmm.
going back and looking at that because if people who are care about their protein, they care about their caloric intake. So like they they would miss that if you're like, okay, that has the same amount of protein. Let me just do that. So it's like you can't just take everything for face value. You have to like look at the details and see like,
Mm.
is this actually good? And there are some good things in there. Like they had some crazy thing talking about Conor McGregor lost because he was eating meat and Nate Diaz wasn't eating meat. Like that to me, that's a stretch. Like Conor McGregor lost because he got in a chokehold that he didn't see coming, not because
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting that you bring up that example because that's more anecdotal. That's more of a story that happened to be true, but I don't
hmm
know what really was going.
like
In fact, when I was looking, I was rooting for the Titans this year because they were,
oh
on the same
yeah,
planet. I was
and
like,
they
yeah,
were
let's see how much
balling this
they
year.
they were crazy awesome. I was like, man, I really didn't see them getting knocked out at it early, and I wasn't even really a big fan of the Super Bowl this year. I think
hmm
both teams were just burnt out. they,
Honestly, yeah, because especially the Chiefs, they're having to come back. At least when they play the Texans, they had to come back from like a 21-28 deficit. Like it was just like, let's just finish this season.
yeah, 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 yeah. But well, so what do you got? What do you got going on next?
So next mission is really getting more involved in local. Like that's something
Mm.
that I feel like I've kind of been distance from. Like with my online fitness, I have clients all across the world. And we're talking about from California to the Philippines because my wife, she's from there, and she has like a big following out there. So it's like literally like, from United States to the Philippines and everywhere in between. And it's I feel like I'm just becoming disconnected with my local people, my local entity, and I really just want to engage with them. So I've been working with a couple companies. There's a company called Hyrox, if you see the shirt.
Yeah,
It's one of the newest crazes in fitness. It's you take the intensity from CrossFit, but put it in simplistic movements that everybody can do. So it's like not
yeah,
everybody can do handstands or overhead squats like they can do in CrossFit. So
sure.
like in High Rocks, it's wall balls. Anybody can do that. It's lead push. It's like lunges, but it's very intense. Like it's kind of like
Oh
a
yeah,
marathon in a sense. So it's like 8 different movements. You go through each of them, and in between each movement, you have 1,000 meter run, and it's for time. It's like a competition.
yeah.
It's really cool. It started in Berlin, Germany, and it's made its way internationally. I'm actually going out to California to be one of the head judges out there.
Oh
Um,
nice.
at the end of this month. So it's really awesome.
Well,
So
that's
that's
cool because I mean, and I hate. I'm not ever trying to knock CrossFit, but the two things that I definitely don't really support are keto and CrossFit, mainly because I feel like when you're doing a high amount of repetitions fast with heavy weight, if your form, even though fuck perfect is a thing, form is the only thing you can't fuck perfect on. If your form isn't perfect, every single time you have this high risk of injury, right? And so
hmm
for me, fitness as a health and fitness as a lifestyle, like I feel
hmm
like if you treat it like a 30-day program, it's going to be 30-day results, right? And it's like, but if you treat it like a lifestyle program, problem
hmm
solved because that's the consistency that we're talking about, right?
Yep.
So like
hmm
I just see like if you're not really good at form, if you're not really good at like say if you don't have a coach or trainer just constantly making sure you're safe, you have a high risk of injury and then you're now down. You're constantly recovering from some injury. And so that's the only reason I don't like it. It's not because it's not good. It's just I feel like there's a high risk potential for injury.
I agree with you 100%. And like I said, like I have so much respect for these CrossFit athletes. Like
Totally.
their mental strength is like on a whole nother level. But I do have just a concern for them for two reasons. The one that you said of form, to where these people are doing like a crazy amount of reps. So even if you are a coach, even if you do have perfect form, form depreciates when fatigue increases.
Yep, yep, yep.
So those first 15 reps or 20 reps, you may have form, but when you get to 40, you're going to get tired and maybe you're not going to sink your hips too much and put the weight on your back or do something like to me it's just a accident waiting to happen. So
Right, yeah.
that's
Yep.
from one aspect that it scares me. The other aspect is to where they're doing a lot of quad dominant exercises. They're doing
Quad
weighted
and shoulders,
lunges.
right?
Yeah, and that's why you can always like people from CrossFit, their quads are just popping. But it's like a see if I have a rubber band around me, but I don't. But I just worry about their hamstrings because they're doing squats, lunges,
Hmm.
overhead squats. It's like, where's the hamstring development? So where when you're constantly building up your hamstring and I'm sorry, you're building up your quad and your hamstring isn't getting stronger too, it's going to
Right,
start pulling on that.
right,
So
right.
that's why a lot of CrossFit athletes have pulled hamstrings or hurt hamstrings in some form of fashion
And then the
because it's a
hamstring
lot
connects
of
to the low back, and then when they're doing deadlifts,
back
and
issues.
then they got it's like it's a combo. Everything's all connected, right? And that's the other thing that when I've seen in CrossFit is um, I'm sure there are some great examples of great workouts, but a lot of times people that are planning the workouts, they're like, let's just do this move, this move. And like, okay, but you've already done that like a bunch of times this week. You're
Exactly.
overtraining one area or a group of areas, and you're undertraining another. And it's just like this is not like 'cause
hmm
if you zoom out in terms of a program level, you need to have like a well balanced thing, right?
Yeah. hmm
Which is also why I talked to you earlier about like I love single side training, just learning to land, learning to decelerate. People can do like freaking deadlifts and clean and jerks and all that stuff all they want, but
hmm
if you don't know how to land on one foot, all it takes is you're playing outside with your kid and you land on your foot on that one foot and boom, you don't know how to
Yep.
land, and that's when all these weird injuries happen, right? Like the
Exactly.
everyday people, I guess that the injuries happen in the weirdest place.
hmm So that happened to me. Just I was out. So I just recently started working out again, probably in the past week or so. But I was out for 3 weeks because just and that's the thing. Even if you do everything right, you can still have freak accidents. So
Uh-huh.
it kind of behooves you to make sure that you are focusing on the actual functional lifting to really prevent that. And the older you get, the more increased chance it has to happen. And like I was working out the other day, and I obviously must have messed something up while I was working out, but I didn't feel it then. So I woke up the next morning and I was just dead. Like my back was just hurting, and like I just feel like I couldn't do anything. And it's just like just making sure that number one, you're going to the chiropractor to make sure you're structurally aligned. Number two, you're rolling out. You're making sure your muscles are adequate. And then like you said, when it comes to lifting, making sure you're hitting those isometrics muscles so you're balanced, on from
Mhm.
your left to right side, but also your balance from the counter opposite muscle that you have, like your bicep, tricep, hamstring,
Mhm.
quads. You have to focus on that to make sure to prevent or reduce the chance of getting injured. Because
I really love that you said that. Not to add any more length to the show today, but like the there's really awesome that when you're talking about it's not like nothing's ever going to happen. You're just reducing the risk. When it
hmm
comes to fitness and health, people often scapegoat like, well, why should I eat this way if something's going to happen anyways? Like, well, if there's a 75% chance of risking injury in CrossFit, or just or 75% risk and disease for eating a certain way, or a 15% risk, which one are you going to choose? Yeah, there is risk in everything, right? The bus could
Yep,
happen, hit you tomorrow, and all your choices don't matter. But the thing is, like, are you setting yourself up for the best possible outcome? That's
yep,
really what it is, like risk assessment. Like, okay, what can you do for the long term? Reduce your risk in these areas. Things can still go awry. Plant based eating is not a cancer free diet.
true.
It's just like you're reducing the risk greatly by all these other things that you're doing, right? So
hmm
cool. Thank you so much again, Troy, for being on the
Yep.
podcast. It was super awesome talking to you and getting to know you even more. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me. Like I said, you're a dope individual. If you ever want to have some fitness vegan on here again, I'll come back anytime.
Awesome. Thank you so